I get it, you scroll through a sea of glossy photos, read the hype about megapixels for days, and still feel a knot in your stomach because the last time you bought a camera that looked perfect on the page, the autofocus missed half the action and the low-light shots came out like a smear of noise. You're not just looking for a pretty piece of tech. You want something that actually delivers when you're out on a hike, at a wedding, or just trying to capture the kid's birthday cake without shaking the whole frame. That hesitation is real, and it's why I'm diving deep into the Sony a7R full-frame mirrorless body today. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about who this camera is really built for. If you're a hobbyist who spends weekends chasing landscapes or street scenes, and you care about pulling out a massive 36 plus megapixel file to print large format photos, the a7R sensor size is a major draw. It's also a solid option for working creators who need that extra resolution for commercial work where clients ask for 30 plus megapixel images for billboards or detailed product shots. On the flip side, if you're a complete beginner who just wants a point-and-shoot experience with a few creative levers, this might feel a bit heavyweight. The menu system, while powerful, can be intimidating, and the lack of in-body stabilization means you'll need to either rely on fast lenses or a tripod for handheld low-light work. One of the first practical concerns anyone mentions when they talk about a new full-frame mirrorless is autofocus reliability. The a7R uses a hybrid phase detect/contrast system that, in everyday shooting, locks onto subjects quickly enough for most stills work. I tried it on a moving street parade. The focus caught the lead dancer as soon as he entered the frame, though it hesitated a split second on a stray child darting across the background. In a static scenario like a portrait session in a studio, the focus is deadened, thanks to the 0.5-second pre-focus lag being almost imperceptible. If you're shooting fast sports where you need 10 plus frames per second, the 4 frames per second continuous burst might feel limiting. But for most hobbyists and professional still life, landscape, and portrait work, it's more than adequate. Low-light performance is another hot topic. The sensor's ISO range tops out at 25,600, with a more practical auto ISO ceiling of 6,400. In my own tests at a dimly lit jazz club, setting ISO 2,800 gave clean, gritty-rich images without the purple fringing that cheaper sensors sometimes produce. However, because the body lacks a built-in 5-axis stabilization system, you'll notice a bit more motion blur if you try to handhold at slower shutter speeds. My workaround was to use a 50mm f/1.8 lens that lets enough light in to keep shutter speeds above 1/60th, which kept the images sharp. So, the camera can handle low light, but you have to pair it with fast glass or be ready to bring a tripod. Speaking of lenses, Sony's mount ecosystem is massive. From budget primes to high-end master lenses, you have options for every budget and style. The a7R body itself doesn't lock you into a single focal length, which is a big win if you already own Sony lenses or plan to grow your kit. The downside is that many of the truly sharp, high-resolution lenses that can make full use of the 36-megapixel sensor sit on the pricier side. If you're coming from a DSLR and expect to drop in a cheap kit lens and get stellar results, you'll be disappointed. The sensor will resolve detail that cheaper optics simply can't deliver, leading to a mismatch between what the camera can capture and what the lens can render. Menu friction is a point that often trips up new users. Sony's interface is layered quick menu, FN button shortcuts, and deep dive settings in the main menu. After a couple of hours of playing around, you'll get the hang of assigning your most used parameters, like ISO, AF mode, or white balance, to the FN button, which cuts down the time you spend hunting through screens. But if you're not comfortable diving into menus, the learning curve can feel steep. For creators who need to switch settings on the fly, say, moving from a wide-angle landscape to a tight portrait, the ability to customize the FN button is a lifesaver. For the casual user, it might be a source of frustration. Battery confidence is an often overlooked but real concern. The a7R uses Sony's NPFW50 battery, which gives roughly 400 shots per charge under normal shooting conditions. That's fine for a day of occasional shooting, but if you're planning a marathon shoot like a full-day wedding or a wildlife safari, you'll want at least one spare. The battery compartment is easy to open, and you can quickly swap in a second pack without missing a beat, but it does add a bit of extra gear to carry. Now, Let's translate all of that into practical strengths and weaknesses you'll feel in real life. On the strength side,